Ho ho! After the international break, tomorrow comes Real Sociedad. Always a tough visit to Anoeta. How have your players recovered and how do you see tomorrow's match?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. And yes, as you said, a visit to Anoeta is always demanding against a strong opponent. And fortunately, everyone has returned well. No players have come back injured or with any problems. We hope to train with everyone. And looking ahead to tomorrow, we're eager to get going again after the break.
Flick said the other day that ego kills success. I don't know if you agree with that statement, and how do you manage egos?
Well, we want to be successful. We want to manage the team well, both with footballing qualities and with human qualities, making sure everyone feels part of the group. When I say the boat, I mean everyone ready to row when it's needed. Now we're entering a very demanding stretch with matches every 3 days until the next break, and we need to be all heading in the same direction.
I want to ask you about Bellingham. We've seen him this week, even if only briefly, in a couple of photos working a bit with the group. There was an expectation that he would be back in October, since it's a tricky kind of injury. I don't know if he might return sooner. How do you see him? Does he have less time left than more?
Well, I want to be a bit optimistic and hope he can be back before October. He has started doing some partial work with the group without contact because we still needed to protect his shoulder so it could heal properly. But honestly, Jude has made a big effort in his recovery. He feels very good. Not for tomorrow, but hopefully next week he can take further steps, train more normally as one of the group, and when we all have good feelings, especially his own, we'll be ready and waiting for him.
FIFA breaks usually aren't popular with coaches, but in this case you said everyone has returned well. You've been able to work with more players than usual during an international break. In this case, has the break been more positive than negative?
It's been positive. As you said, the most important thing is that everyone has come back fit, no problems, and all on time. Today will be the last training session, and yes, we've had more players than is normally the case during a break. Now we leave it behind. We face the next stretch until the next break with the desire to keep our momentum, to keep growing. We're still in the process of consolidating things, analyzing after each match what we can improve and what we need to reinforce. And it starts at Anoeta, which, as I said before, is always a demanding trip.
Tomorrow you go to Anoeta, which I suppose for you is very special. I'm curious, your father, who will he support, you or Real Sociedad?
I don't know, you'd have to ask him. I hope with us, right? I'm convinced he will, but yes, at home it's a special match.
I wanted to ask you from the start, can Vinicius, Mbappe and Rodrigo all play together? Or do you prefer Rodrigo on the left? In other words, if Vinny plays on the left, is it harder for Rodrigo to start?
No, they definitely can play together. They've played a lot. Last season, they played together often. And yes, they can do it, depending on the match, depending on the other players as well. It's not something ruled out, of course not. The fact we haven't done it yet doesn't mean much. We've only played 3 matches so far. Sometimes we try to draw very definitive conclusions after a very short period. No, we need a little more calm, and over a longer stretch, we'll be able to evaluate better.
Yesterday, for the first time in Spain, referees publicly explained the most controversial incidents of the matchday. I wanted to ask what you think about this, and if you find it convincing.
I don't think it's a bad thing. Obviously, there are points where you might agree more or less. I think if it helps explain situations, and hopefully, though I'm not entirely sure, if it helps reduce mistakes, then it would be welcome. But we have to accept that mistakes will continue to happen, and we need to contribute in the best possible way.
Argentina wants to take Mastantuono to the U20 World Cup. If he goes, he could miss up to 7 matches. I don't know if you're considering it, or if the door is completely closed.
If it's up to us, if it depends on us, he stays here with us.
I was going to ask you about 2 other injured players. One is Camavinga, who seems to be in the final stretch of his recovery, and the other is Mendy. who was injured a long time ago in that cup final, and we still don't really know when he'll be back.
Yes, Eduardo is on a similar timeline to Jude. He's already training with the group, he can pretty much do everything, and I think if there are no setbacks, he'll soon be back in the squad list. Of course, he still needs training time, but he already has medical clearance. Ferland will take a bit longer. His injury was more complicated, and he still needs a few more weeks.
You said after the first block of matches that you were eager to finish those 3 games, as they were part of the preparation phase. Now, after that first block and this international break, is the team where you want it to be physically and in terms of assimilating your ideas?
We're still in the process of assimilating. I think we still have a long way to go. We'll need more blocks, more matches, because we want to keep evolving. Physically, after those 3 matches, considering the short preparation we had, we're doing better. And now we enter our normal rhythm, which we'll be playing every 3 days. We need fresh players, players with the feeling they can contribute at any moment. We're going to get players back, and we'll have few injuries, so we're in a good position to face what's ahead.
During this international break, we saw another great performance from Kylian Mbappé with France, and also in his first matches with Real Madrid. There's a lot of talk about leaders, about who the leader of each team is. For you, is Kylian Mbappé the leader of Real Madrid?
Kylian is in a very good moment, not only football-wise, but also in terms of personality. After his first season in Madrid, he is facing the second one with great desire. You see him day to day taking on that role. Not just him, of course. Those responsibilities must be shared if we want to create a strong core in the dressing room to build towards what we want to become. We've only played 3 matches, but we need to gradually establish the foundations of how we want to compete, how we want to work day by day in order to develop as a team. And Kylian is fundamental. The other day with France, he was decisive again, and we need him.
I ask this a bit from ignorance, since I'm not inside the football world. You often talk about blocks. Now it's a more common term for us journalists too. I don't know if this is something coaches didn't really use before, or if it's something of your own. This idea of planning by blocks. Are your players used to you speaking in those terms?
They're getting used to it, obviously. Every coach explains things in their own way. But yes, it fits perfectly, especially in this first part of the season. Between international breaks, you know you have to set short-term objectives so that you arrive in good condition when it really matters. April, May, and we don't want to lose focus. So blocks, mini blocks, call them whatever you like, but it's just a way of organizing, of structuring things in our minds. Distributing objectives, distributing minutes.
I wanted to ask about the 3 centre-back defense you used in the Club World Cup but haven't yet in La Liga. Was using it there and not now more about distances and occupying the pitch as you wanted? Or was it more about the different opponents compared to the start of La Liga?
Now, the Club World Cup was a different context from what we're seeing now. It was more about preparing a game plan than consolidating the fundamental concepts of how we want to build. And yes, we used it. More than 3 center-backs, it was with a midfielder who could also play as a central defender. It's something I have in mind. It's not forgotten. We can definitely use it again, especially since we have 5 center-backs, David, Tony, Militao, Raul, Din, and also Aurelien who can play there. With the qualities of the players, we can do it. The fact we haven't used it in 3 matches, as I've said before, doesn't mean anything definitive. There's still a lot of time to define a match plan and choose to play with that system and idea.
You just mentioned the Club World Cup was a different context. Can we say it was an inherited project you took on in June? Now comes a block of 7 matches, as you said, 2 in the Champions League, a derby at the Metropolitano, Villarreal at home, Anoeta away. Given the demands of Real Madrid, do you consider this block your first big exam as head coach?
No, I don't see it that way. Every match we know has great importance, both in La Liga and the Champions League. These are points that could prove decisive in the long term. That's why we need to give each match its importance, and within our framework of how we want to play, we must prepare properly. Now it's Anoeta. On Tuesday we host Olympique at home, and they're different opponents, but we need to face them all, because each match can be decisive.
Staying on the subject of defense, I'd like to ask about 2 players in particular. Trent and Carvajal, both top-level fullbacks. In this demanding month, how do you plan to manage that situation? And what criteria will you use to decide when one or the other gets the opportunity?
Fortunately, we have healthy competition within the squad. That's good for the team, good for the players, because it forces everyone to give their best, knowing there is strong competition and teammates well prepared too. So far, both Tren and Carva have also played in other positions, whether as centre-backs or wingers. That's very healthy for the squad's daily work, so no one feels left out. Whoever deserves to play will play, and that will be the pattern throughout the whole season.
During this international break, we saw the 4 Brazilians staying here with you. Ancelotti spoke a lot about players' physical condition. I'd like to know how Vinicius, Rodrigo, and Militão are doing physically, and when Endrick will be back.
Well, I think Vinny stayed because of the suspension he had for the first match. Mili, after a long injury, can't play everything, but when he does, he performs at a good level. Rodrigo is getting better every day, and Endrick is very close to returning. I don't think it will happen often that all 4 of them stay here. If it does, they're very welcome, but normally I think Carlo will call them back again.